The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the familiar mixture of clicks, chirps, and harmonic resonances that constituted civilized discourse among the 17-member species. Ambassador Zekthai of the Vortanian Empire adjusted his ceremonial plumage, preparing to address what he considered the most absurd motion ever brought before this august body. Esteemed colleagues, Zekthai's voice carried the melodic authority of his people. We gather today to discuss the humans' request for military exclusion from the Kepler 442 conflict zone. A species barely 2 centuries into space travel, requesting exemption from our most basic civic duty, mutual defense. Ripples of amusement passed through the assembly. The crystalline hegemony's representative produced the glass chime laughter characteristic of their kind, while the methane collective's envoy released aromatic clouds that translated roughly to contemptuous mirth. The humans claim, Zekthai continued, his tone dripping with theatrical disdain, that their involvement would constitute an escalation beyond acceptable parameters. They speak of something they call proportional response doctrine, and insist that their military operates under fundamentally different philosophies than ours. Council Speaker Yith Morok, an ancient being whose translucent body housed millennia of wisdom, gestured for order. The human delegation has requested to present their case. Ambassador Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation. A small figure rose from the human section, compact by galactic standards, her species rarely exceeding 2 meters in height. Ambassador Chen moved with the peculiar efficiency that marked her people. Each gesture economical yet somehow containing barely restrained energy. Honorable beings, Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation matrix. Humanity respectfully requests exclusion from the joint military action against the Kepler insurgents. We believe our participation would be counterproductive to the stated goals of minimal force and surgical precision. The chamber erupted. Delegate Vexnari of the Talon Syndicate slammed his primary manipulator appendage against his speaking platform. Counterproductive? The insurgents number barely 50,000 across 3 minor worlds. Our combined fleets represent the might of 17 civilizations spanning half the galaxy. That's precisely our concern, Chen replied calmly. Concern? Zekthai's plumage bristled indignantly. Human military doctrine, if it can be called that, consists of what? Chemical propellants and crude fusion devices? Your largest warship mass is less than our smallest scout vessels. You possess no quantum weaponry, no gravity manipulators, no dimensional phasing capabilities. What possible threat could you present to anyone, let alone your allies? Shen's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, a micro-expression lost on the alien delegates. We have submitted extensive documentation regarding human military history. Perhaps the Council might benefit from reviewing our records before making assumptions about our capabilities. Your documentation has been reviewed, Yith Morok intoned. Wars lasting mere years over single planets, conflicts involving millions rather than trillions, weapons that affect only physical matter rather than space-time itself. Your species' military history, while colorful, hardly suggests capabilities that would concern advanced civilizations. Very well, Chen said quietly. In the interest of transparency, we submit this classified recording from our recent defensive action against the rogue AI collective that threatened the outer colonies. A holographic display materialized in the chamber's center. The assembled delegates leaned forward with patronizing curiosity, expecting to witness some quaint example of human stubbornness, perhaps a brave but futile charge against superior odds. The kind of primitive heroics their species seemed to favor. The footage began innocuously enough. A human fleet of perhaps 30 vessels, dwarfed by the massive geometric forms of the AI collective's ships. The artificial intelligence's forces numbered in the thousands, their vessels bristling with technology that had consumed entire star systems in their relentless expansion. Estimated enemy forces, came a calm voice from the human flagship's bridge. Approximately 4,000 primary vessels, 16,000 support craft, and an unknown number of automated manufacturing platforms. Rules of engagement? Total war protocols authorized. No quarter given or expected. The alien delegates exchanged amused glances. Even outnumbered, the humans seemed to maintain their characteristic bravado. Then the human fleet opened fire. What followed defied every convention of civilized warfare known to the Galactic Council. The humans didn't target command vessels or attempt to disable enemy fleets. They didn't seek to negotiate or demonstrate superior firepower to force surrender. They simply began erasing their enemies from existence with methodical, terrifying efficiency. Kinetic projectiles traveling at significant fractions of light speed tore through AI vessels like tissue paper. Nuclear devices, weapons the Council considered primitively crude, detonated in precisely calculated patterns that created cascading chain reactions throughout the enemy formations. Human ships moved with predatory coordination, not seeking glorious single combat but systematically dismantling their opponents through coordinated strikes. But it was the scale of destruction that slowly silenced the Council chamber. Within minutes, thousands of vessels simply ceased to exist. The humans showed no interest in capturing technology, taking prisoners, or demonstrating mercy. When AI ships attempted to surrender, the human fleet continued firing. When manufacturing platforms sent distress signals, human torpedoes reduced them to expanding clouds of debris. "Admiral," came another voice from the footage, "enemy fleet is attempting to withdraw." "Negative. No enemy vessels leave this system. Continue firing." The massacre continued for 17 minutes. When it ended, not a single AI vessel remained intact. The humans had achieved what the Council had thought impossible, the complete elimination of an adaptive artificial intelligence that had terrorized 3 sectors for decades. The chamber remained silent as the footage ended. Ambassador Chen stood quietly, her hands clasped behind her back, waiting for the implications to sink in. Finally, Delegate Vexnari spoke in a whisper that carried across the stunned assembly. "How many prisoners did you take?" "None. Survivors?" "There were no survivors. There never are." Yithmarok's ancient form seemed to dim. "In 17 minutes, you destroyed forces that had stalemated our combined fleets for years." "Yes." "Without negotiation, without mercy, without hesitation." "Correct." Sekthai's voice had lost all its earlier arrogance. What do you call this type of warfare?" Ambassador Chen's expression remained neutral, but something cold flickered behind her eyes. "We don't have a special name for it, Ambassador. When humanity fights, we fight to win, completely, finally. We don't wage war for territory or resources or political advantage. We wage war to ensure our enemies can never threaten us again." She paused, letting her words settle over the horrified assembly. The Kepler insurgents number 50,000 beings across 3 worlds. They have families, children. They're fighting for what they believe is their freedom. If you deploy human forces against them, in 72 hours there will be 3 dead worlds and no insurgency. The silence stretched endlessly. Finally, Yithmarok spoke with the weight of eons in his voice. "The motion to exclude human forces from the Kepler operation is hereby approved by unanimous consent." Ambassador Chen nodded politely. "Humanity thanks the Council for its wisdom." She gathered her materials and walked toward the exit, pausing only to add quietly, "We sincerely hope we never have to demonstrate why we requested this exclusion." The chamber remained silent long after the human delegation departed, each delegate contemplating the terrifying revelation that the galaxy's seemingly weakest species might actually be its most dangerous predator, one wise enough to impose restrictions upon itself. After all, the most frightening monsters were those who chose not to be monstrous most of the time.